What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and you're watching the B1KER Bar Podcast. You know, one of the things that stands out to me with Enve is like your logo. You know much about how that came up?
I know everything about how that came up.
Oh, well, let's hear about it, man. That thing, dude, I'll tell you what, the first time I ever seen it, it was like, oh, dude, that looks sharp. And you guys had the decal that like went all the way over the rim. Like nobody else was doing that. Like everybody just had stickers on like, you know, the sides. And it was like, dude, this looks sick, man.
Yeah, graphics are another area of just major agonizing. But no, so originally Enve was, when we were founded as a company, we were Edge Composites. So we fell in step with the family of Edge brands that the original investors had created. So Edge Composites was our name. And then as we, being just a small startup, started to gain some traction beyond the borders of, you know, northern Utah and beyond the borders of North America, and we started selling into Europe. One day, I think it was in probably early 2009, maybe late 2008, the owners received a cease and desist order that we were in violation of a trademark in Europe. So there we are, this small company with still not making money. We're still just hemorrhaging money as we're trying to develop product. Right. And so we're still not profitable. And we have somebody basically telling us that they're, you know, going to take legal action against us if we don't do something with our name or pay them a licensing fee. So we considered the license. We said, okay, well, what's the license fee going to be? And I want to say it was like, I think they wanted €1 million.
Yeah. I mean, you're like, we're trying to keep the electricity on over here, man.
No, totally. We're like, we're not even making $1 million a year. And like, we don't even know if this business is really gonna, we know we have a great product, but we're definitely not making money yet. So like that just seemed untenable. And it just didn't make sense. So we said, okay, we're definitely not paying these guys. We're definitely not paying these guys for this trademark. We're not going to license this. We don't have that much equity in the aftermarket to really fight for this name and want to pay for it. So
at this point, nobody really knows you that much. So you're like, hey.
Yeah. So we did drop some cash. We hired a marketing company to help us with a rebranding exercise. And they took their, you know, they did their due diligence. And like a month or so later, they came back to us and did this big presentation in the conference room, at our conference room. And I remember this well. And they start presenting all these names and who they thought we were as a brand and what we represented. And they're like, well, you know, cycling has a lot of roots in Europe, and there's the Italian Dolomites, and we thought that maybe Dolomite, or they started coming with all these crazy names. And we went through like 30 of them, and then we narrowed that list down to like 5 or 6 of them. And we're like, man, these just suck. These are not us. Like, this isn't us this isn't who we are as people or personalities. This isn't like our creative process. And we're a company of at the time, we're definitely a company of quite a few creatives, and everybody had ideas, and just none of this really felt like who we are, what we stood for as a brand. So we basically, you know, bid them farewell, and we spent that money, which, you know, whatever. And that was money gone. And I can't say it was a total waste, because it took us to the situation where we were T-minus, I think we were T-minus like 8 weeks from Eurobike. So it was the summer of 2009. Yeah. And we had to rebrand before we went to Eurobike. We had a trade show booth, and we had distributors, and we needed to show up with branding and wheels and everything, graphics that were
down to like the booth you're standing in. You need banners.
And it had to be whatever the new name was going to be. And we didn't really know what that was going to be, but we knew we had to do it. And so there was a day where all the decision makers of the company, it was actually it was like so the managing, the investors, so the ownership group, a couple of the engineers, a couple of us from the brand and marketing side. And so there's probably like 8 of us in the conference room. And Sarah Lehman, our CEO, our newly appointed CEO at the time, sat us down and said, "Hey, we need a new name, and nobody's leaving this conference room until we've got it."
Right.
So
All right.
that was like at 8 a.m. And I think around like 2 or 3 p.m. that day, we finally got to a point where we'd, hung the big Post-its all over all the walls, and we'd filled the whole whiteboard with ideas and concepts. And one of the things was we were going through the list, and it's like, what do we want to be, or who are we as a brand? And, there's all these things like we're US made, and we're performance, and, premium, performance at any cost, and all these things. And somebody had put up like, we want to be the envy of cyclists. We want people to envy other cyclists that ride the product. Not because it's like audacious and arrogant, but because like the performance and the quality and everything is enviable. And so somebody wrote the word envy on the board, like ENVY. And then our original logo was an anagram. It was edge. So you could, I think it's an anagram.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Both ways.
Right.
And we were like, well, envy could be spelt with an E at the end. And I think I think it was Sarah's husband, Paul, that suggested that. And then one of the engineers got up and sketched something on the board. And it was like, boom, this is it. Like this feels good. This feels right. Like it feels risky. It feels a little edgy. It feels a little, it's just like, this is what we're doing. And it was also looking at it and saying,
it's like, hey dude, check this out.
Yeah, I was also looking at it and saying like, it's a new name, but it's not so much of a departure from the original name that we won't be recognized. And it was crazy at Eurobike. So we went through the whole rebranding, got ready for Eurobike, went to Eurobike. And it was, I bet you about 50% of the people that came into the booth that, knew we were Edge Composites didn't even notice that we had rebranded.
Oh yeah.
Like we had to point it out. We're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're Enve Composites now. And we're like, oh, I didn't even notice.
That's funny. If you like that, make sure you check out the full episode. And hey, do me a favor, before you take off, hit the like and subscribe. A big thanks to the show sponsor, Project 321. Hit the link and show more and save up to 10% on your next wheel build.